Welcome back. We continue right here. Sports Call, 7 nights a week. We're always here at 10:35 Pittsburgh CW. By the way, the Pittsburgh Riverhounds will make their season opener tomorrow at the Tampa Bay Rowdies. You'll see it right here. Pittsburgh CW beginning at 7 p.m. The Riverhounds, of course, coming off a playoff season, had their first ever home playoff game at Highmark Stadium last year. We wish them the best, and hopefully they'll do even bigger and better things this year. Again, Pittsburgh, Tampa, Pittsburgh Riverhounds SC tomorrow, 7 o'clock right here on CW. Let's go back to the lines. We got Tony in the Hill District. Hello, Tony. How are you?
Hello, Bob. How are you?
Good. Thanks.
I just wanted to know, Le'Veon Bell signed with the Jets for $50-something million. Okay, and mind you, he didn't play all last year. Do you think he's going to live up to the hype with the Jets as he did with Pittsburgh for that much money?
I don't know what he's going to be like. He's a very talented player. I don't think there's any question about that. So I would expect that he would go in there. Now, it's a different team. I don't think their offensive line is any good. They have a young quarterback. We'll see how that all goes. But I think he miscalculated his own worth. And this was the story. This was a guy who sat out on principle based on he needed to be paying more. And he wanted to set the market. He didn't set the market. He actually regressed in that market and took less than what the Steelers had offered him 2 years ago. So not a good play by Le'Veon Bell. Let's go to Bruce in the North Hills. What's up, Bruce? How are you?
Hey, Bob. How are you? I'm
well.
calling to ask the best in the business, your opinion. So here we go.
Thanks, Bruce. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Hey, when the Penguins, Letang and Mata are ready to come back to the Penguins, I know it's going to be a tough decision on who to send on. Do you think maybe they should not bring Mata back up? He's really not done much ever since he's been here.
No, I think you underappreciate what he does. I think he's a very solid player. He's not one of those guys who jumps off the screen at you, but he does a lot of good stuff. And I think I always equated his first year like Jordan Stahl's first year. The expectation level went way up based on what he did, and he's not as fast as he was. He was dealing with it. He's still a very good player. So no, I'm not going to sit him. He's going to play.
Is there maybe somebody you may consider sending down if they both come back?
I mean,
at the same time?
They have a crowded blue line. I don't think there's any question.
Yeah, really tough.
But that's a nice problem to have, and I think it's one of the things that, I think Marcus Pettersson, despite how well he's played, he might be one of the candidates. I think Branson has been real good, better than what a lot of people expected when he was acquired here. But remember, he was a first-round pick originally, so he's a physical guy who can mix it up, and he's the one guy who stood toe-to-toe with Tom Wilson several times, including this past week here in Pittsburgh. So
exactly.
I don't know. I mean, it might be a night-to-night situation. They may have to determine what their lineup's going to look like and change it based on that.
That was the next thing out of my mouth. Do you think maybe you might see one sit one night and another sit another night?
No, I'm talking about 6 and 7 defensemen, or 5 and 6. You may have those guys come in and out of the lineup, but 1, 2, 3, 4 are set, and they're not going to change.
Good point. Well,
right.
Another quick note, and I'll let you take another caller. I'm going to go down to the casino this weekend, and I'm going to bet the under on the Pirates winning 77 this year.
I think I'm going to talk you out of that. I think that's a mistake. I think you should go over.
Okay, I respect your opinion, sir.
I don't want to spend your money, though. I don't want to spend your money. I'm just telling you, I think based on the pitching and what they have there, that they're going to be better than what people think. Can they win that division? No. But I think they can be better than what you think. So I don't know if I'd make that bet. Carl in Uniontown. What's up, Carl? How are you?
Good. How are you doing, Bob?
Doing good. Thank you.
Well, I was calling. I think the Steelers made the best move possible, getting rid of the biggest drama queen in the NFL, Antonio Brown. But I think the Oakland Raiders made the biggest mistake by picking him up. If I had been another team, I would have never picked him up with all the drama he brings in the locker room.
Yeah, you know what they're doing, though? They have a move to Vegas coming up. They needed a big name. They needed somebody who's going to be and look at, the production on the field is what it is. They need somebody to help them in that department. So I understand why they did it. The price was right for them, a third and a fifth. But they admitted they weren't going to go any higher because they don't think he was worth it, which is telling to me. So good for – I'm telling you, the Steelers are going to be better than what most of you out there think. It'll be a breath of fresh air. Hopefully Mike Tomlin will handle this and set the bar and say, look, that's what I went through. And he's going to have to own it in the locker room and talk to those guys about it. That will not be accepted or tolerated or encouraged again, and he can make that work if he does it. But the thing is, they still have one of the best offensive lines in the game. They still have one of the best quarterbacks in the game. They still have a good running game. I think their wide receiver with Moncrief coming in as a backup, as a number 2 guy to Juju, along with Washington and Rodgers and whoever else they end up getting, because they may send somebody else or draft somebody. It's going to be a good offense. The defense should be better. You would expect that to happen. I think Steve Nelson's a nice little pickup. We'll find out. But I don't think, and it may serve the Steelers' best situation to be under the radar where no one's going to give them a chance. And we'll see what happens. At this point, Cleveland's a paper champion. Have we heard that before? I think so. 412-575-2600, back in a flash.